But I say first thing is trying to be more grateful for what you actually have in your life, the small things, the micro things. You're not going to understand how to do it, but if you have your why on lock, the how will come along.
When we have to pursue for more and also just enjoy the small things. And I've just realized that actually the small things are the things that makes us happy.
I start crying. I was like 8 or 9 and it still gets me emotional today. Because how much that could have actually impacted my entire life. Because you can't expect to have all the answers. You know, like I don't know all the answers. That's why I love asking questions. Being clear on how I want my future to look and being clear on why I want my future to look like that.
Today's guest comes all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Yash grew as the only child without a father figure. Looking back at his early childhood, he grew up to be a follower that complied with everything the society was throwing at him. It was not until 16 years old when he picked up a book that was going to change his life completely. He had a massive mindset shift and realized that drinking and partying with his friends on the weekends is not what he truly wants to do, and perhaps he was not getting any fulfillment out of it. His journey is as inspiring as his podcast, Behind the Motive, which believes in empowering young adults to find their voice and pursue their dreams. Through his Instagram and podcast, he's been able to reach and talk to some incredible entrepreneurs and coaches. And there's so much more to talk about this man's mission, to be honest, but I will leave this interview to speak for itself. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Yash Akpinar.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of The Grateful Show. Hope you are doing fantastic. And today, actually, we have with us Yash Akpinar, the motivepreneur. How is it going, my man?
I'm very grateful to be on here, like the show suggests. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, our pleasure. Yeah, our pleasure, honestly. I'm just going to briefly break the ice and I'm going to ask you, what are you grateful for today, Yash?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for friendships. I am really grateful for friendships. I actually jumped off a call, like a 1-hour call with someone that I just recently met from a mutual friend. And his insights into my life really just changed the way I've looked at my life. And I'm really grateful for that. It was one of my best friend's birthdays today, and I really was just grateful to have him in my life. Just the little things, you know, the little things really add up. And like the micro turns into the macro over time. So yeah, I think those are the two things I'm really grateful for today.
Awesome to hear, especially in the current times with like the all uncertainty, like relationships are more valuable than ever. I
100%.
believe.
Yeah, right. And people 100%. Are just tending to just focus to be grateful on the big picture, like on the very big aspects, when in fact, like you said, all that matters is just these small things that actually make us happy.
Yeah, and it all starts with one friend at a time, right? Like
exactly.
especially people that have the same mindset as you, that are like-minded, that believe the same things that you believe, that share the same values. Those are the people that I like to associate myself with a lot more than the negative type and the people that are always down in the dumps and everything like that, you know. That's where I really strive, because you both improve each other. And then the more people you can gather around with the same mindsets, the more grateful you can become with your life, and the more you improve.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. Yash,
that's mentality.
For our audience to get a better understanding, can you briefly explain what it is that you do and how you've come to be where you are now?
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, no worries. My name's Yash Akpinar. I'm all the way from Melbourne, Australia, so very far away from where you guys are situated. I really started this journey, just a bit of backstory about my story and everything. I started this journey probably when I was 16, 17. I was very fortunate. Yeah, I was very fortunate to be to really change my mindset at a young age. I grew up with an only child, single mum, so didn't really have that father figure in my life. But as I went through primary school and high school, I was really a follower. I followed what everyone else was doing. I wasn't really that leader that I believe I am today. And Um, I wasn't in the right direction in my life. I was drinking every single weekend, and the drinking laws in Australia are very different. Even though we still were underage, um, it was still fun, but I could see into the future differently than my friends could see into the future. I looked
Mm-hmm.
very long term. I looked to my future instead, and they looked to their weekend, the next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had that reality shift, when I could really realize that I don't want my life to be like this. I don't want to go clubbing every single weekend. I don't want to go to parties every single weekend. That's not what I want to look forward to. So I bought one book.
And that book alone was going to completely change the way he was perceiving the world at a time. But before diving any deeper into the podcast, guys, we would highly appreciate if you could take a screenshot of the timestamp where you're listening. It can be Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Just take a screenshot of it and post it on your stories so more people can actually become aware of this interview and the podcast that we've been doing so far. Tag us at Grateful Show and also tag Yash at Motivepreneur. We would be more than happy to not only repost the story but also get a conversation started with yourselves. And with that said, back to the podcast.
And this was when I was about 17. And it's, how come that idiot's rich and I'm not? It was for $3 and it was in a secondhand bookstore. And that book single-handedly changed my mindset. I could not stop sharing it with all my friends, but every single friend except for one person understood what I was saying. And I was like, why the hell isn't anyone understanding? Then I realized that's how they're all wired.
Yeah.
They're all wired that way, to think like employees, to think like, to just be another rat in the wheel kind of thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I was onto something. I was like, I'm really onto something. I really like this trajectory that my life is on now. I was a decent student, but I didn't really focus a lot more into my studies, as opposed to reading all those books you see behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I kept on buying books. I kept on investing into myself, into my self-development, and I really just grew my knowledge that way. And then another thing that really propelled was starting my Instagram page, Motivepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get into Instagram for the wrong reasons, and that's what I've found out for the last 2+ years. But my entire purpose for starting my Instagram page was to surround myself with more like-minded people. And that's what I needed in my life. Every single person around me had that negative mindset, had that really fixed mindset. I was looking for growth mindset. I was looking for really people that have walked the path that I want to walk on. So that's why I started the Instagram page, and it blew up. It grew, but it was very, very tough to grow. I didn't have any mentors by my side teaching me how to do it. It was all self-taught, and now it is what it is today. And it's led me on to do some amazing things, speak to some amazing people like yourselves, all the way from the other side of the world, start my own podcast, and yeah, man. And to really break down what my podcast is all about, it aligns a lot like your guys's, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
I decided to reach out to you, because we both have the same values. And like I said before, I love interacting with people that have the same values and beliefs. And my podcast is all about helping young adults find their own voice, pursue their dreams without conforming to society. Kind of like I've found my dream, I've found my purpose, and it's still changing, it's still evolving like everyone else's.
Of course.
But I never conformed to society. I always had in the back of my mind that I knew that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, that I wanted to become a business owner, that I wanted to help my mum retire. And that is my deepest why. My deepest why is to tell my mum one day that you do not have to work anymore. That's why I do everything that I do. That's why I help all these people. That's why I jump onto podcasts like yourselves. And yeah, man, it's been a really great road. It's been challenging at times. Even recently, it's been very challenging. Sometimes been down in the dumps, but it's a part of the journey. And the more you can surround yourself with positive-minded people like yourselves, the more you will elevate as well.
Well, to me, it sounds like you're on the right path. Like, to be
Exactly.
honest, being able to have those realizations at such a young age, it really means a lot. And I just wanted to point out to our audience, I often get asked quite a lot recently about how am I supposed to be positive when my brother is complaining, my mother is on furlough, someone else comes with bad vibes at me, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean how? Like, we live in 2020. Like, you've got podcasts, you got YouTube, you've got video channels, you got audio channels, you got Instagram. It really takes you a couple of seconds to reach out to someone, to follow them, to look up to what they are doing, to try to emulate what they are doing, to basically build up relationships with people that you aspire to be like. Because obviously,
Mhm.
if you only sit with your brother and your sister and your mother that complain, and this might only be just an example, it might be your spouse, it might be
Yeah,
friends, it might be work colleagues, but if you only sit with those people that you don't really want to be like, well, guess what, you're gonna stay in the same place. So yeah,
exactly
I
right.
really like that you mentioned the fact that you used Instagram to basically build up relationships.
I totally, yeah, exactly right. And that's what I did. And to anyone listening that has that type of mindset, it's okay. You're going to be surrounded with those people your entire life,
Yeah.
but it's all about how you go out and reach out to people that you respect. Just like you said, um, all you have to do is just sit in your room, put on your earphones and chuck a podcast on. There is so much positivity out there. Our podcasts are doing that exact thing. A lot of podcasts out there. There's YouTube, like you said. Just it takes a bit of initiative. You know, it's really good to understand that you are in that position, that you
Yeah.
don't want to be like those people.
Yeah. It,
Understanding is the key part.
Right.
yeah.
So
That's so true.
I wanted to ask you because for me and Bogdan, it might seem like normal for someone to start reading books and like get hooked onto like reading more and more and like discovering different concepts and perspectives upon different things that happen in the society that might even be broken. But for our audience, what was it that actually made you want to discover more? Because like obviously you started with that book at 16, 17, and now you've got a full entire shelf of books that you've said you read. What was there that you really pushed you into wanting to know more and wanting to discover more? Because most people nowadays, like, they buy a book, they might read a couple of pages, they might read half of it, and they just get bored or forget about it.
That's a great question, man. And I think it starts with curiosity.
Mm,
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't start with passion. A lot of people say, "Oh, go find your passion, and you won't work
Yeah.
another day of your life." But that's complete bullshit, because no one has genuine passion about something at the very start. You have curiosity, and
mm,
that's where it really started with me. I was looking at my life, and I wasn't in a good spot, so I was seeking out different things. I seeked out many things, but I never really started reading books. And when I got my hands on that one book, it evoked a genuine curiosity to learn more. So don't go and read a book that's really complicated, because then you're going to get bored.
yeah.
You want to read a book, you want to listen to a podcast, you want to watch a YouTube video that's genuinely exciting and it fascinates you. Like, you don't go and watch a YouTube video on, I don't know, trees growing, because you're going to get bored. You watch a YouTube video of your favorite YouTuber because it's exciting. Think of the same way as your books. Think of the same way as your podcast. And the more you actually read it and the more you apply what they
Mhm.
teach, the more you will get hooked on it. The more you will want more. It's an addiction, and it's a really healthy addiction. Reading is a very healthy addiction compared to many things. So that's how I'd answer that question.
Mm,
Yeah, it's very important to read the books that you need in certain times in your life, because maybe right now you are just struggling because you are judgmental. So what you have to do is just go and watch a podcast, listen to a podcast, or just find a book who helps you with that, or just find what is missing in your life and go after that thing. Just try to fix it. And you said that we need to read not necessarily the hardest books, but the books that help us. And I just wanted to ask you, for someone who is not necessarily into this reading movement, into books, what is like one or two or three books? It doesn't really matter, that you think that they may help like someone who is at the beginner level.
It depends on what their interests are. If their interests, like, I don't know much about other genres. I've always been into self-development and
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship and business, like those areas, and finance, really. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually think, in saying that, though, anyone who is listening, starting out with self-development books is you can't go wrong,
Yeah.
right? And going off the top of my head, I feel like one would be How Come That Idiot's Rich and I'm Not by Robert Shemin. The first book I ever bought. Incredible book, especially for those who are starting out, because he lays it out very simply. I've read that book over 6-7 times, I think now. And like every single time I read it, I just learn something new because it's so simply laid out. What would be another book? Another book to really get you inspired. There may be some people out there that are interested in fitness and again, self-development and mindset stuff.
Yeah.
Especially I love mindset stuff. Would be Can't Hurt Me by, God, I can't think of his name.
I forgot his name as well, but I know the book and I know who you mean.
David Goggins. I got the book right behind me. David Goggins.
The tough guy.
He's got that no bullshit mentality. Yeah. Like, stop whining. Like, just get to work. Like, it's serious. It will seriously get you into action. And the one thing I took away from that book was really silencing these limiting beliefs. Every person has limiting beliefs, and you'll never completely silence it. And I think that's for the best, because you need to have that person in there telling you to do this, but then you have that discipline and that mindset to no, piss off, I'm doing this, and the one thing I learned from them, as many things, was to just swear at it, to be brutally honest with this mindset, with this limiting belief up there, with this mind that's taking control of your thoughts. Just swear at it, go apeshit at it, because if you don't, it's going to take control of your thoughts. It's going to tell you to stay in bed. It's going to tell you to not work out. It's going to tell you not to read that book because it's not comfortable,
It seeks comfort.
And the more, exactly, it seeks comfort. It seeks normality. And the more it seeks that, the more it gets comfortable, and the more it seeks, and it's just a loop, and if that's there's probably 2 books that you really can't go wrong with if you start reading, is Can't Hurt Me and How Come That Idiot's Rich and I'm Not. Perfect books to get started.
We're going to make sure that we're just going to link them in the podcast description, so you guys who are listening, it's going to be easier for you to check them. You spoke about what you are doing right now, but I was just curious, what are your plan? What's your plan for the future? Where is your life heading?
Great question. And it's, believe it or not, this is actually what I've been working on a lot at the moment, and really trying to plan out. And it's been difficult at times because a lot of it is the unknown. So a lot of it is, I don't know where it's going to go, but I have visions. And if I could share some of those visions, I would. So firstly, the one clear vision that I have for my life into the future is to be able to speak and travel worldwide, on stages worldwide. I love to speak. I'm not the best at it, but I love to inspire people. And that alone really fuels me. I have visions sometimes of me going on stage to the song High Hopes. I don't know if you guys know that song, but definitely leave that song in the description as well. People need to listen to that. That's an inspiring song.
High Hopes.
High Hopes. Yeah. I can't remember who it's by, but that's where I want to see my future go to. And in doing that, I'm in the process of reverse engineering my goals from the future down to what I can do today to get there. And
how do you do that for our audience to understand that whole process? How do you reverse engineer your goals?
And again, believe it or not, this is a question I've been asking for the last 2 weeks, and probably ever. There's no given formula on how to do it, but the most important thing is to, and I just had this revelation recently, is to not fixate on the end goal. And what I mean by that is, the more you think about walking out on stage and traveling around the world and all these people buying tickets to listen to you, the more you'd be like, damn, I'm here. I'm never going to get there.
Yeah.
It's so distant. It's so far away. Like, how the hell am I going to get to that point? But then if you keep on thinking about that, you will never get there, because just thinking about it's not going to get you there, right? You need to have a plan. So what I like to think of, and what I'm starting to think about now, is really just focusing on 12 months. really just focusing on 3 months, really just focusing on like weekly stuff, like what can I do this week to get me just one step closer to that? What can I get? Like just one step, just simple things, and that's all it takes. Like if you overcomplicate things, you will never get it done. And again, that's the revelation I've been having. The more people I've been speaking to about it, the more I've been, again, reaching out to these relationships I've been building over this time. They've really helped me. If I had spoken to, if like 3 years ago, I had that same question. And if I had spoken to my friends that I was drinking with every single week, they would have been like, what are you worrying about the future for? Just live in the moment. Like as much as that's important, I'll be like, no, that's not what I want. Like, and they would just be like, yeah, you're gonna drink next year or some shit, like we'll go to that party next year, or like we'll go to that event. It's not what I wanted. So it's been a bit of a struggle, but slowly starting to get into place of like really breaking it down into weekly, monthly, 3-monthly, yearly, and that's the most important part. Don't worry about the end goal, because then it's going to really overwhelm you.
Yeah, you mentioned about your peers from the past that they were so focused on having fun, enjoying the moment, YOLO and all that. Why do you think that was the case for them? Do you think that they are not as gifted as you are? Or why do you think that is the case, that they had that mindset that has basically put them in the position to limit themselves to only what they could have perceived in that moment and not look further at their possibilities, really?
Firstly, I want to say I'm not gifted than anyone. I'm not more gifted than anyone. There's no chance of that. It's just, and the way I'd answer that question is, firstly, the way we were all brought up. I'm not saying like our parents were bad or anything. I love my mum, and they all love their parents. It's just what we were used to, what we didn't know any better. We saw all of our friends going out and drinking and partying and all that stuff, and we're like, oh, that's probably normal. And unfortunately, not a lot of people had the reality shift like I did and took the initiative to be like, what else is there in this life?
Yeah.
Like, what else is there? Surely this is not all about life. And we were young, like we didn't know any better. I personally went to the second worst school in my state.
Wow.
Statistically. Like statistically speaking, I shouldn't be here speaking to you today. I should be at a party. I should be doing drugs. I should be doing alcohol. And I didn't want to be another statistic. I wanted to be an outlier.
Pausing the podcast for just a few seconds. If you're enjoying this interview so far, please make sure to share it on your stories so your friends can actually learn more about it and listen to it themselves. Tag us at Grateful Show and also tag Yash at Motivepreneur. And with that said, this is only just getting started. Back to the podcast. Enjoy.
That's how I saw it, and that's how I still see it. That's the legacy that I want to leave behind. That's what I want to show other people, that it is possible if you're just open to learning a bit more about it, just open to new experiences. Some people, and I think that's a great way to answer the question, is that a lot of people are just fixated on what they know. They don't want anything else. They're too comfortable, but it's okay to be uncomfortable, and that's what they weren't. They're in their rhythm. They were in their routine of going through school for the week, and Friday night hits and we're all like gassed up, we're all G'd up, like, oh my God, we're about to go to parties and go to the city and shit and part. That's all they were used to, and it didn't help that we didn't grow up in the best area. It didn't help that all our circumstances, but as much as that has a factor into it, but yeah, it's just me being able to take the initiative, and another way I'd answer that question is that not everyone wants to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's totally okay. I know a lot of, and all those friends that I used to go partying with, they're still some of my best mates, and I speak to them sometimes and they're like, I'm really comfortable with where I am. I'm happy with where I am, and that's where you need to really understand is like, where are you genuinely happy? Personally, I'm not happy working at a normal job.
Yeah.
That's just me, but they are, and that's okay. Like I tried to kind of like convince them of like entrepreneurship and all this stuff, but they weren't having it, and that was okay. That's their realm and this is my realm. So yeah, I think that's how I'd differentiate it and see that.
Yeah, that's a very well way to see it. Also, what people are mistaking, what people genuinely don't realize is that basically today, let's say that I'm this guy who just drinks and knows that my whole life it's kind of messed up, and then just gonna say, well, from tomorrow I'm just gonna be this new person. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna exercise. I'm gonna eat right. I'm not gonna drink, which is kind of like impossible. Like you
Unrealistic.
said, you just gotta start with the small things. Like, of course, you don't have to just go hardcore on everything and just change your life like completely in one day. You still, if you want, of course, if you feel the need, just go party, but not that much. I mean, we are all humans. We gotta like do some things that make us
Of
happy, like you
course.
said as well. You don't have just to seek for constant progress and only think of that. You gotta like enjoy the little moments in your life as well.
Definitely, man. Like 2 weeks ago, Melbourne just got out of, oh, probably wasn't even 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half. Melbourne just got out of lockdown, and
Mm,
I found this bar probably 10, 15 minutes away from me, and I said
mm,
to a few of my mates, "Let's go. Let's just enjoy
yeah,
some time because we've been
exactly.
locked down for 8 months. Let's just enjoy this little time." So we did, and like you got to have that. You got to
Yeah,
have that. If you stay too fixated on your goals and your dreams and nothing else, and you get rid of everything else, then you're not going to enjoy it.
No,
It's
exactly.
it's
all
You're
not
just
about
gonna
gonna
be
get burned out.
fulfilling.
Yeah.
it's all about balance. You have to have balance.
Exactly. Yes, I just wanted to go a bit more personal with yourself, and I'm going to ask you what experience are you most grateful for up to date?
Oh, great question. You know, I feel like just experiencing what I've experienced, I
Mm,
wouldn't change anything.
Mm.
And that's what I'm also grateful for. Like, I'm kind of like, in a sense, I'm grateful for not being brought up on a silver platter.
mm,
Because what if I was? I probably wouldn't have this mindset. I'd probably be like, again, partying every single weekend, like just living a normal rich life. Like, I'm kind of grateful for that in a sense, as much as I would have liked to have that
mm-hmm,
luxury. Who wouldn't? But it's enabled me to have a different type of mindset, and really strive for more things, and build it for myself, and build it for my mum, and build it for my friends and family. Like, that's really what I'm grateful for. And it's a great question, because I to be honest with you, I don't think about it a lot. I don't think about what I'm grateful for a lot. And I feel like that's normal with a lot of people, but
yeah,
having that positive self-talk is so important. Being grateful for the little things is so important. And I rarely do it. So if I could ask you a question, like, how do you start that on that journey? How do you start progressing into like implementing that on a daily basis?
For me, it basically started to the at the point that I was not hating my life, but I started only seeing the bad in stuff. And this was back
mm,
in my second year of
mm,
university, when I realized that there was no point in going to uni anymore. I realized that uni is not going to help me.
mm,
I was working a job I didn't really like that much. It was not fulfilling me, and I was watching people like Gary Vaynerchuk and a lot of other entrepreneurs killing it in the entrepreneurial
Mm.
space. And I really started like being very disappointed of my current situation. I was like, hold on a second, this is going off the
mm,
rabbit hole. Like, I can't be having this bad negative mood and self-talk all the time. So I think first time I came across the concept was through Louis House, through his podcast School of Greatness, where someone was like, yeah, just take 2 minutes in the morning to reflect on the things that you are grateful for. It could be as simple as being able to wake up and see the
mm,
light of the sun. It could be as simple as being able to have drinkable water at the tap.
Yeah.
And I've done that for like a couple of weeks, and then I get out of the habit. But I would say that the last year and a half, on and off, I've been able to stick to this habit and routine.
Oh,
And
mm-hmm,
when you do it consistently enough, it's a matter of it stays with you throughout the day.
yeah.
Subconsciously, you think of the things that you are grateful for. And whenever something bad happens, or whenever you feel like you are not pushing yourself enough, you remind yourself of the things that you tend to take for granted, such as like driving your car to work, or being able to see your friends, or being able, like, I was speaking to Bogdan, I remember back in April when we went to full lockdown in London, and I was like, I cannot wait for this lockdown to finish so
Mm,
everyone can actually have a mindset shift and realize how much we take those relationships for granted, how much we take
Mm,
for granted things such as
yeah.
shaking a friend's hand or giving someone a hug. And
Wow.
as much as I hoped for that, it felt to me that people didn't really appreciate that even after the
hmm
lockdown. And it's
hmm
those
Yeah.
things that basically make life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to
That
think about it.
Yeah, that was the case with me as well. It was everything just started about 3 years ago. I was here in Romania, and yeah, I was just going to uni. I had this toxic relationship. I really didn't. I didn't like to go to the uni. I didn't like. I studied law. I didn't really like law, but I knew that I have to do something with my life. So yeah, I just picked this one because I didn't know what else. And I just started to read books as well. I believe my first book was Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. And yeah, everything changed. Like all of a sudden, I just wanted to do more, to be more. And I moved to London. And then, like you said, it was just like small steps. I was just, I had this just like job. I was working in a restaurant. I was working in a kitchen, and I could just be like miserable and just do that. But what I was doing instead, I would just had like some earphones on, and I was just listening to some podcasts, Joe Rogan, Louis House, Tom Bilyeu, and all that, and everything just like started to shift in my mind. And I just went to seminars, and I just realized that there is more. Uh, Life is more than what we see, and we can be way happier. We just don't have to like be stuck in this 9 to 5 cycle, these rats which are not necessarily happy with what they have, and we have to pursue for more and also just enjoy the small things. And I've just realized that actually the small things are the things that makes us happy, not like the big goal at the end of the
Yeah.
journey. Yeah, you just got to be
100%.
grateful for the all the small victories and also the problems that you have because they shape who you are right now. You don't have to have regret. You got to see the opportunity in the problem. So yeah, everybody has its own journey. It's just a matter of taking action and just being aware where you are and just trying, like you said, yeah, should like progress like a little today and just be 1% better every day. And in 100 days, you can be 100% better. Why not?
Yep, it's possible, and it really is that simple. Like you don't people tries to overcomplicate it, and I like
Mm,
whenever I say people, I include myself in that conversation. Like I used to try to overcomplicate it. I still
mm,
do sometimes. You're like, I've got all this shit to do. What am I supposed to do today? But like just thinking of it one step at a time. One step at a time. Because again, like I mentioned earlier,
yeah,
if you constantly fixate on that future goal, you will never get
yeah.
there. And that's a great way to be able to think about it, like being grateful for your struggles. If you
Mm,
get that grateful for your struggles, wow, nothing can really stop you at that point. Like,
yeah,
and that's a great way to think about it, man.
Well, I look
yeah.
at people, like, I just wanted to point out something to put things in perspective. Why do you think that we, as, let's say, normal people, look up to people such as like Elon Musk or Warren Buffett or like athletes? Do we look up to them because they've been comfortable and they woke up at 9 a.m. and had a couple of cookies and scrolled down on social media for half a day and then went out to drink some beers in the afternoon? Probably not. We probably look up to them because we admire the fact
Mm,
that they've been able to discipline themselves to such an extent that they've been able to not only delay short-term gratification but actually act on their bigger visions. Like when Elon Musk, I was reading his biography last year when he was telling his friends and like relatives that his dream is to like go to Mars because it's been in his brain since
Wow.
like he was 16. They're like, you're out of your mind. You'll never be able to do that. And now there are still people that doubt that, but it goes to show how much progress this man has made and
yeah.
how much closer we as humankind we are to actually colonizing Mars. And this applies
Because of
to
him.
everything in life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible to look at, and you really understand, especially when you read biographies. My
Hmm.
God, I need to read more biographies because it really goes to show of like what the hell these people did.
Yeah.
Like
Mm,
people always ask like how do you do that? How do you do that? Just read a
mm,
biography
Yeah.
and just
yeah, that's so true.
like just ask people. You know, like most
Yeah.
people aren't that arrogant. They're not arrogant at all. Like they will be more than happy to share how they've got to the
Exactly.
point they got to. That's
Exactly.
again going back to my story. That's why I started Motivepreneur, for
Mm.
the genuine reason of just interacting with more people and understanding how they got to the point that they got to. And I did. I met some amazing people along the way, and I've met you guys along the way. You know, like it's incredible. Just messaging people, reading about people, really
Mm-hmm.
deconstructing
Mm.
what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's again another call that I got off recently. I've been wondering, like, how do I grow my podcast? Like, how do I get to the next level? And I didn't know how, because like I've never done this. I don't have anyone around me that's done this. You know, like my family haven't done this, my friends haven't done this.
Of course.
So I asked him, like, how would you go about it? And he's just like, write down 5 podcasts that you look up to. And I did. And he said, just deconstruct those podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
See how they did it. Because
Mhm.
success leaves clues.
Mm,
You know,
it's a good one.
success leaves clues. It's why would you want to reinvent the wheel when there's already people that have done it? You can just
Yeah.
kind of duplicate it, but then put your own spin on it. Obviously, you're not going to
Exactly.
duplicate everything they've done, but you've got your own visions, you've got your own purpose, you've got your own inspiring messages, whatever it is. Just copy that, you know, like just implement that into your strategy. That's how I'd go about it. And that's like the mentality shift, the revelation that I've recently had. It's really about like planning it and then also deconstructing what's already been out there.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Yeah.
with your mindset, sorry, Bogdan, with your mindset, it's like admirable to see. But most people, if they were thinking like they have this big revelation when they're having a shower that they want to start a podcast, and straight away, instead of like pursuing that idea, they're like, but there are already so many other podcasts out there. I have no budget. I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to reach out to people. Nobody's gonna answer my DMs. Why would I do it? Like there are 2 different oppositions that you have to join. You either like decide that you're not able to do it, and you're not, or you actually decide that you are able to do it. You don't know how, but you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah. And like and I'll share a great story. Like the way I started, I was doing a course and I'm still doing the course. And in one of the modules, they were like, go into your phone and record a voice memo of something that means a lot to you, something that you can just go on a rampage about for like 20, 30 minutes. So I got off my phone and I spoke about the education system and how it has all these flaws and like I compared the positives to the negatives and all this stuff, you know, and I just went on and I replayed it and I'm like, damn, this would be a really cool episode. Like if I had a podcast, this would do pretty well. I'm like, okay, how do we go about this? So I quickly researched how to create the cover art. I created my own cover art. I researched how to actually start. I got up my software and everything and started. And then probably in another week or so, I just uploaded it. I didn't edit it because I didn't know how. I've never edited audio and video. And it did all right. It did pretty well. So I went from there, and it's still on my page today. It's the first ever episode that I published. Sounds like shit. Sounds like absolute shit compared to my episodes now. But you got to start from somewhere, you know. Like if you deliberate on trying to make it perfect, imagine if I had tried to make that perfect. I would have had to record that 50 times because I didn't know how to speak. I just spoke about something that was like really passionate to me, you know. I would have had to buy this mic. I would have had to buy software, and then I would never have gotten started. And that's what people limit themselves with. They want all the equipment. They want to know exactly how to do it. They want to know 100% about it before they get started.
Yeah.
But you're never going to get to that spot.
Exactly.
You would never get to that spot. I still don't know 100% about it. I'm sure freaking Joe Rogan doesn't even know 100% about the podcast, you know, but he just started. You just start and you work, you go, you learn along the way, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
And the one thing, if I could say to that, you're not going to understand how to do it, but if you have your why on lock, the how will come along. You know, like the how will work itself out. If you have a strong purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, you will learn how to do it. It may take 1 week, it may take 1 month, it may take 1 year, you know, like who knows?
Yeah.
But
just a matter of time,
It's just a matter of time. Exactly. You'll have that click one day and be like, oh shit, that's how you do it. And you get one step closer, and you have another one. Oh shit, that's how you do it. One step closer, and then it's all part of the journey, man.
Yeah, that's so true. Yes, just wanted to change a little bit of subject and to ask you, what are 3 things that people can do to be happier? Because like it's all about happiness. It's all about enjoying life, isn't it?
I think the first one is the title of this great podcast that you guys have is just to be more grateful,
Thank you.
and it's such an important subject. It's such an important subject. And obviously I'm not the expert in it. So I can't say much about being grateful, but like, it's a great way to start your podcast, by the way. Asking that simple question, like, what are 2 things you're grateful for today? Really sets a tone. You've done a really good job there. But I say first thing is trying to be more grateful for what you actually have in your life, the small things, the micro things. Another thing would be just what makes you happy. Personally speaking, I think exploring things that genuinely make me curious makes me happy. Exploring and learning a bit more about things, like going out and just developing myself, makes me happy. Like I'm reading a book about learning.
Very
Like
interesting.
I'm reading a book about learning because for the last 3 years, however long I've been out of high school for, like I never really took an initiative on learning and on how to learn. Like the education system teaches you what to teach. It teaches you what to learn. It doesn't teach you how to learn. So like implementing these and just understanding and being like, what the hell? This exists. Like it's incredible. It's and that makes me happy. And I think the third thing, without a doubt, is just enjoy the small things. Enjoy what you want to learn. Enjoy what you want to enjoy. Like don't be so strict on yourself where you're not able to go out and party. I still go out and party. It's fun. I can't deny that. Don't like go to the shops one day, go to the football one day, whatever it is. Like don't just enjoy the little things because they will all add up, and then you'll have more time to pursue your dreams because you'll have the energy. You're not so strict on yourself. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's how I'd answer it in the spur of the moment.
There's no good or bad answer to this question.
It's perfect the way it is. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, right. Is there anything that keeps you up at night?
Is there anything that keeps me up at night?
Yeah, like something that is in your mind, something that not necessarily that you can't sleep, but like what's the last thought that you think about when you just go to bed?
I think about like last night, for example, I've really thought about like, what am I going to do today? And like, how am I going to get there? And then like, it's pretty hard to have, it's pretty hard to not have those thoughts of like the limiting belief thoughts. And I've had a lot of limiting beliefs. I still do, and it's normal.
Everybody does. Yeah.
Everybody does. Exactly. And sometimes those thoughts take control of your mind at night. And more about like, what am I going to do to stay as most productive? That's what I think about a lot. I don't want to go on a day where it's just like not accomplishing anything. I want to at least accomplish one thing. And that's what I probably think about at night. Sometimes it keeps me up depending on how tired I am. Sometimes I can just really like clonk it and go to sleep. But yeah, I think that's what sometimes keeps me up at night. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody has their own demons and their own things that they struggle with, and we always tend to look at the positive things, which is good, and about like the things which build us, the strength points. And I feel like a lot of people, like everybody does, have their weaknesses. And I just wanted to ask you, what's one thing that you would change now about yourself?
One thing I'd change now about myself. Wow. These are some really good questions. Got me in the spot.
Cheers.
I think being consistent is what I'd improve upon. Like just I have a thing where like I'm not consistent every single day. And it kind of gets me in the dumps sometimes. I'm like, I could have done so much more today, but I didn't. You know, and that's going out and again and understanding and being grateful for what you did accomplish. And I think that's the part of my mind. No, I'm changing my answer actually. That's the part of my mind that I would change is being more grateful.
Yeah, it is very hard to actually, true. It's very hard to build momentum after you stop. So yeah, everybody has to have that consistency, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not even saying that because I'm on the Grateful Show right now. Like that's genuinely popped up in my mind. You know, like actually being more grateful for what I have accomplished. That 100%, that's what I would change about myself, and that's what I'm trying to change about myself. Is like I have accomplished a lot, but I don't take the time to like appreciate that sometimes. You know, until I just meet some people like you and it really like clicks and like, oh shit, I have. You know, like it's kind of like so fast sometimes, like you just mentioned, that you don't take the time to sit down and be like, damn, what have I done today that's got me to the next level, that's got me one step closer. Instead, and I think a lot of people can align with this, you think about what you haven't done.
Yeah.
What you could have done more of. Yeah. And that's not a grateful mindset.
No.
That's really like a negative mindset, isn't it? But then if you shift and you be like, damn, I have accomplished a lot, you just be uplifted about yourself. You'll be happy about yourself. You'll be grateful. You know, I think that's the perfect way to answer it. That's what I would change about myself. And it's a process. It's a journey in on itself.
Absolutely,
but
it takes time.
It takes time, but I am on the journey, and that I am shifting.
Yeah, I just wanted to obviously point out for our audience the fact that obviously we all go through those periods when we doubt ourselves, we have limited self-beliefs, but I think it's worth mentioning the fact that your mind, I think there was even a quote about this from Stoicism, maybe. Your mind can be your master or your slave. So basically you can use your mind to do the things that you want to be doing, or your mind can control you and get you into like very bad behavior and addictions and all that. And I just wanted to ask you, if you don't mind getting a bit more into like the whole thought pattern of yourself, because I think this would be very valuable and relatable for our audience, even for me and Bogdan, is why do you think you are not able to be as consistent as you wish you would want to be?
I think recently it's been about really being clear on how I want my future to look, and being clear on why I want my future to look like that. And then going out and really changing my mentality of being like, instead of thinking all the way 10 years into the future, what can I do today? And I don't think about that a lot. And I'm starting to think about that much more often than I was, you know, and sometimes it's I guess it's normal to wake up and be like, cannot be stuffed doing anything today. You know, and I don't like doing that. I really don't like doing that, because then I just don't do anything the entire day, you know, and you get into that rut. It's a shit mindset to have, honestly.
Yeah.
Thinking about myself personally, like I don't like that. So I am trying to work on my consistency a lot, especially just doing one simple thing a day, and then looking back on the day and be like, okay, I accomplished that one thing. What can I do better the next day?
Exactly.
How can I add on to that the next day? You know, and it's a very important conversation to have with yourself. And not a lot of people ask these questions to themselves. You know, they go about life day by day, you know, and just being like, and just not expanding upon themselves, not asking those simple questions, which can really impact the trajectory of your life. Just simple questions like that, like, what have I accomplished today? What will I accomplish today? What do I want my future to look like? What can I do today to get there? You know, like these conversations, like, I don't think a lot of people, no, I'll rephrase that. I think every single person has an ultimate dream.
Of course.
Of like what they want their life to look like. But unfortunately, not a lot of people know how to get there. because a lot of the time those dreams are very unorthodox. Those dreams are very outside of the box, and we're not taught how to do that in the traditional system, because we're all raised up in the traditional system, unless we have like multi-millionaire families and parents and shit that can teach us otherwise. Like a lot of the time we don't know how to get there. So it's really important to have these conversations with yourself and then seek out people that do know how to get there. Because you can't expect to have all the answers. Like I don't know all the answers. That's why I love asking questions. And if I could actually share another story.
Of course.
And
Feel free.
this is a very meaningful story to me that happened when I was in primary school that I actually made a podcast episode on. It was that important. I grew up, again, like I mentioned at the start, as like a follower, as a very shy kid. Like I didn't raise my voice at all. Like it was just that type of kid, and one day an assembly, this was in primary school, like grade 3 or something, grade 4, we had an assembly and our principal mentions that Tiggy, I'm not too sure if you guys know what Tiggy is. It's like
No, I don't know.
catch, kind of like you got one catcher and everyone else runs away and you got to try and catch each person.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a simple game, right? It's a simple game. And he told us that it's banned. We are no longer to play Tiggy. So that day, that was in the morning, that day at lunchtime and our break, we all meet up in the oval and we kind of secretly start playing again because we didn't listen. We didn't care. And then we start running away. And I still remember, it's so crazy how I still remember this. That's how impactful it was. Like I ran all the way to the buildings, and believe it or not, out of anyone that could have popped up, it was the principal.
Wow.
And he asked us, like, what are you running away from? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, are you playing Tiggy? He's like, yeah. And then he yells, like he just yells at me with everyone else around. He's like, why are you playing Tiggy? What did I tell you at assembly? And I was speechless, obviously, like I was shocked. And then I just asked, why? That's all I said was why. I asked one simple question. He's like, what did you say to me? And he screams again and he got to another level. He's like, go to my office right now. And everyone was in shock. So I walk over to his office and he gives me another slamming, even worse, one-on-one. I walk out of that office. I walk down the corridor all of myself. And on the stairs, I see all my friends waiting for me. I start crying. I was like 8 or 9, and it still gets me emotional today. Because how much that could have actually impacted my entire life. Like not every kid grows up to be like strong and independent and confident. That like you can tell how much that impacted me, but I'm very thankful that I've developed myself. I've gone to the next level. I do not miss a moment to ask a question. I strive myself to always being curious and and wanting to learn more. But that event right there, that could have broke me. That could have shattered me. And it did. That day, it shattered me. That's probably why I grew up being a follower and not leading. Who knows? I don't know exactly what that was, but who knows? But never be afraid to ask questions. I'm not too sure how we got into this story, but it's a very important subject. Like never be afraid to ask questions. Never be afraid to seek out advice. Never be afraid to ask how people do it and question the status quo. Question what's normal. Because not every time, don't listen to everything that gets told to you, like always question things. It's such an important lesson to have. And I had that at a very early age. And it still stayed with me till today. And I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you very much
I really
for sharing.
have to acknowledge yourself for the mindset that you have, because you could just take it as a regret, like why did this happen to me? I mean, you just took it as a lesson. You just saw the positive in it, and now you just became the person who you are today, which is like great. You're just inspiring a lot of people, and you're just able to share your stories as well, and just to let people know that they're not alone in their journeys, and that everybody will struggle at some point in life. And the sooner you realize that these problems are just opportunities, the sooner you will learn that there is more to life than what we see.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm not going out and saying that like that it wasn't like it was a good experience. Like, obviously it was a bad
Yeah.
experience, and
Yeah.
I learned from it. And that's
Mhm.
that goes to show, like, you have to take the positive out of every situation.
Mhm.
At the time, it's probably not going to be positive. Like, at the time, I was bawling my eyes out, and then my mum came out the next day and then confronted him. And apparently,
Mhm.
he was having a really bad day, and then he called me out of class and really said, "I'm sorry," and everything. Like,
Mm.
my mum gave it to his life. It was amazing
Mhm.
the next
Mhm.
day. But it's all about really just taking the positive out of every situation, like you mentioned before, man.
Mhm.
As much as you can.
The thing is, when you look back, whenever, like, this is an exercise for everyone to do, right now when you're listening, think of a time when you had a massive failure or you had a bad experience, and think of how much you actually learned from that thing, because us as human beings are very adaptable, and we tend to like learn from mistakes to preserve our survival. And this applies to mindset as well. In most cases, whenever you fail at something, there are two paths. You either start avoiding that thing, or you learn from it and you can face it the next time being better and being able to manage it and being able to react properly or being able to respond properly to it. And I think it's also worth mentioning, you were talking about asking questions and questioning the status quo. And if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs and the most innovative businesses, they basically started from a point of, can this be done better? Or why is this done this certain way? Or
Mhm.
even with the educational system at the moment, I'm more than certain that within maybe 20, 30 years,
Easy.
we're gonna have everything revolutionized, just because people like us have actually started to realize that it's not that
It's not
effective
right.
anymore.
Yeah.
And if people conform with like the normal, conform with like what's being told, and conform to like what is being presented to them, we are not going to evolve,
Yeah.
or we're going to evolve to a very much slower
Definitely.
pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And I totally agree with what you're saying. The education system has to change, and it will change. It already is going in that direction. Really funny story is like when you go back to the future, back to the past, and you meet this person in like the 1930s, and you bring a phone with you,
Hmm.
a modern day iPhone, and you show this person the iPhone. And you're like, look what it can do. You can take pictures with it, with this thing. You can go on maps with this thing. You can
Yeah.
it tells you where to go. You can search up anything in the world. You don't need encyclopedias or anything anymore. Like, wow, how can you do all this stuff? And it's like, it's amazing. It's the future. And then you take that same person into a modern day classroom, and the one thing he will see different is that, what's happened to the chalkboard? Why is it white?
I love that.
That's all that's
Yeah.
changed.
And if you actually listened or watched this far into the podcast, that goes to show that you've just invested 1 hour into your growth, 1 hour into your self development. And we truly hope that you got something out of it. And if you enjoyed it, please don't hesitate to share it on your stories so your friends can learn more about us and actually improve themselves as well. With that said, back to the podcast.
That's all that's changed. The chalkboard has turned freaking white. The classroom's the same layout, everything. So if nothing changes and nothing evolves, then the education system will stay the same. Like, it's bound to change. It's bound to change. Self-education will take control, and for the better, And that's what I believe, man. Great insight.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Yes, as much as we enjoy talking to yourself, we just gotta acknowledge your time and also our audience time. So we're just gonna address you the last question. So just take your time to answer it, and the question is like this. So just imagine that you are on your deathbed. So you are about to die. And right next to you is the best version of yourself sitting and just looking at you. You see and comprehend what you could have become. So how would you feel about yourself and about your life in that specific moment?
I will have impacted many people. I will have really built something that's really impacted the world. I feel like that's especially young adults. That's where I like to focus on a lot because I can relate with young adults. I've been there. We've all been there, but I'm still there kind of thing. So I would have definitely impacted as many people as possible. And honestly, like that's the thing that really stands out to me a lot out of anything. Is just giving back to as much as I can, like philanthropy if you want. That's one of my great visions for like 20, 30 years in the future is like being able to give back at that level as well. And just not conforming to what people tell you to do. Because like if you look on the other side, maybe there's going to be the person that you didn't want to become and he's looking at you. And I feel like knowing about me, knowing and understanding what I am like and how I'm wired and how I tick. If that person sitting on the other side of me is in a normal 9 to 5 job and still hasn't even retired by the time I've died, I will not be grateful. I will not be happy because that's not how I am. And I had that revelation recently. I've had that revelation since I was since I was younger. You know, like being able to just be my own boss and impact as many people's lives as I can. That's what will really make me happy.
That's very powerful. I have no doubt you're gonna
I
get
love
there.
that.
I appreciate that, man. And same to you guys. You're doing a great job with this show. I really do. I really do love what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, just gonna acknowledge you again, and if you can tell again our listeners, what do you do and how can you help them now with the perfect moment?
I provide all my value through my Instagram page and my podcast. That's like the main areas that you can come to me. I respond to every single DM. I'd love to connect with any of you guys that are listening. Just on @motivepreneur on Instagram and the Behind Your Motive podcast. It's pretty much available anywhere now. So come to those avenues if you want more positivity, including the Grateful Show. I think we both align really nicely with our visions and what we're doing. And let's get to the next level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on, man. It was a pleasure. And thank you for audience for listening till the end. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay grateful.
Take care.